If you've read anything about Social Security, you've probably seen this advice. Delay your benefit until age 70 so you can get the biggest check possible. And it's true, waiting till 70 can increase your monthly check by as much as 77% over claiming at age 62, which is the earliest you can possibly collect your benefit. But bigger checks, they're not always better. In this video, we're going to look at the real trade-offs of delaying Social Security. I'll walk you through the break-even math, how it impacts your spouse and survivor benefits, how to evaluate your true income needs, and how all of this will interact with your tax strategy, your required minimum distributions, and your Roth conversion schedule. Because sometimes the smartest decision isn't what gives you the most money. It's what gives you the most flexibility and control over your situation. And before we dive in, my name's Ryan Knoll. I'm a certified financial planner and founder of NavWealth Partners, a financial planning firm that helps clients nationwide make smart money decisions. Let's jump into the video. So what's the appeal of delaying Social Security till age 70? Well, in order to make sense of it, let's look at the math behind the equation. For every year you delay Social Security past your full retirement age, which for most people is somewhere between age 66 and 67 right now, your benefit will grow by about 8% per year. So if your benefit at full retirement age is $3,000 a month, waiting until age 70 would give you roughly $3,720 per month. So a $700 per month jump. That's a pretty big jump. But it comes with a cost. You're not receiving any income in those years in which you've delayed collecting your Social Security. And if you need income, it must come from somewhere else, like your portfolio, a pension, 401k at work, somewhere that's not Social Security. So that may or may not be ideal for you depending on how well you've saved. So let's take a look at the break-even math, or the age at which you'll earn more by delaying your Social Security versus taking it earlier. So if you were to collect Social Security at age 67 and you lived till age 85, you would have collected your benefits for 18 years. But if you wait till age 70, you might get a higher benefit, and you only would have collected that higher benefit for 15 years in that same scenario. So that higher monthly amount, that must make up for the missed years or the 3 years in which you didn't collect Social Security. And generally, the break-even point in that scenario is somewhere between your 80th and 81st birthday if you're evaluating between collecting at full retirement age and age 70. If you live past that, you'll come out ahead by waiting. If you pass away sooner, you would have been better off claiming earlier. But there's more than just that decision. If you're evaluating between collecting as early as possible and your full retirement age, which for most people is age 67, so the earliest you can collect is age 62 and your full retirement age in the scenario would be 67, that break-even point, it's just before your 79th birthday. And finally, if you're evaluating between taking at age 62 or age 70, that break-even point, well, that's going to be somewhere around your 82nd birthday. But here's the problem. You don't know how long you're going to live. So we have to consider other factors just beyond the math. The first qualitative factor we want to determine is your actual income need. So let's say you retire at 65 and you want to delay Social Security till age 70. You'll need to cover 5 years of expenses without that benefit. That can mean drawing heavily from your investment portfolio, increasing your taxable income, triggering capital gains or Roth conversion taxes, and lowering your long-term compounding power. In many cases, people delay Social Security while also depleting their nest egg, which defeats the purpose. Now, if you've saved more than an adequate amount of money to live off of your assets, delaying Social Security in that instance is going to make sense. But if you're looking at the math and you're saying, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to have these assets last the rest of my life if I delay Social Security another 5 years, it may make sense to take your benefits sooner. So you need to ask yourself, do I have enough assets to live comfortably without Social Security until I turn 70? Will I need to take distributions that trigger higher taxes or reduce my safety buffer? Will this make me feel anxious about market volatility? Sometimes taking the reduced benefit earlier can preserve the flexibility and reduce sequence of returns risk during early retirement years. Another factor you want to consider, and one of the most overlooked areas of Social Security planning in general, is survivor benefits. If you're married, delaying your benefit not only gives you a higher check, it increases the survivor benefit your spouse will receive if you pass away first. And this is a really big deal, especially if you're the higher earner, your spouse is a bit younger, your spouse has lower lifetime earnings, and your spouse is expected to live significantly longer. In many cases, the best strategy is for the higher earner to delay Social Security till age 70, while the lower earner takes their Social Security first. That way, you secure a larger long-term survivor benefit while also bringing in the income you need into your household earlier. I find this to be especially true if there's an age gap in spouses of 4 years or more. It would make sense to take the lower Social Security earlier and delay the bigger one. More often than not, the older spouse will pass away first and the younger spouse will keep the bigger benefit. If the older spouse is a man who is 4 years older and he passes first and the younger spouse is a woman, using current life expectancy tables, she will enjoy a higher benefit for an additional 9 years after her spouse passes. That is an additional $75,000 in income from Social Security over that time period if waiting generates an extra $700 per month in your Social Security benefit as opposed to taking it at full retirement age. But again, it's not always as cut and dry. If the lower earner passes away first or the couple divorces, that equation will change. Next, we want to consider the tax strategy, specifically as it pertains to your required minimum distributions and your Roth conversion strategy. Delaying Social Security might seem like a tax-neutral decision, but often it's not. If you delay Social Security early and rely on IRA withdrawals in the meantime, that may push you into higher tax brackets earlier on in retirement. On the flip side, delaying Social Security gives you a low-income window between the time which you're delaying and when you start taking Social Security, which is a golden opportunity for Roth conversions. In this instance, if you convert something like $50,000 or $100,000 per year during that gap, you can shift tax-deferred dollars into tax-free growth, lower your future required minimum distributions, reduce the taxable income that could cause your Social Security to be taxed later on in retirement, and potentially lower your IRMA surcharge brackets for Medicare purposes. So depending on your goals, delaying Social Security might be part of a bigger tax planning strategy, not just an income decision. But you need to run the numbers. For some, converting aggressively between 62 and 70 and then claiming at 67 is a better balance of tax efficiency and income security. If you want help understanding your own situation, please follow the link in the description below and we can work on your Social Security plan as it pertains to your individual situation. The fourth factor you want to consider is something you're not going to see in spreadsheets or the numbers, and that's the value of your peace of mind. Some people prefer the certainty of getting a guaranteed check from the government sooner, even if it's a bit smaller. Others value the optionality of building a larger future benefit that can't be outlived. There's no wrong answer, but you want to be intentional about the trade-off. Questions you want to ask yourself are, would a guaranteed check earlier help me sleep better at night? Am I worried about drawing down my investments too quickly? Do I expect to live a long time, or do I have health concerns? And how important is leaving a financial legacy to me? Social Security isn't just a math question, it's a life decision. The right answer should reflect your priorities, not just your age. Finally, you want to consider your family history, and I think this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest factor in determining your benefit and when you should take it. And it's often overlooked. If your parents, your grandparents, and all your aunts and uncles lived well into their 80s or 90s, then you have longevity in your family. So delaying may make more sense than claiming early, especially if you have decent health now and are relying on your genes. But if most of your relatives don't live much past 80, collecting at 62 or your full retirement age may make more sense. This is the qualitative side of the equation. We can run numbers all day long, but taking into consideration your current health and what your family history is may help you determine what your life expectancy might be, and in turn can help you make a more educated decision as to when it comes time to take your Social Security. So let's wrap this up with some final thoughts. Now, delaying Social Security to age 70 can absolutely make sense, but only if it's part of your broader financial plan. Bigger checks are not always better, especially if you're losing the control and flexibility that you need. So let's recap this. The break-even point in most scenarios is somewhere around age 79 or 80 years old. Delaying your Social Security means you must self-fund the early retirement years. You can also increase your survivor benefits through delaying Social Security for your spouse, especially if you're the higher earner and if there's an age gap. It also creates a tax window for Roth conversions and lowers your future required minimum distribution burdens. You also want to consider the qualitative factors such as your health and family history. But realize that delaying Social Security also means giving up flexibility and increasing your reliance on investments early on. So if you did a good job saving, this probably isn't a huge deal, but if you're not so sure, taking Social Security earlier might be better. And at NavWealth Partners, we help clients evaluate this decision in context of their tax strategy, lifestyle goals, and long-term legacy plans each and every single day. If you're unsure when to claim Social Security or how to optimize it alongside your investments, it's worth getting a personalized plan. Also, if you want more tips delivered to your YouTube page each week, please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, make smart money decisions.